Give me a few minutes and I'll show you how to make your sports betting 100% more profitable without betting more or chasing some Discord guru's max unit banger. I've made over $10,000 in profit, not from lucky streaks, but by doing something 95% of casual bettors never even consider. So if you're tired of losing money even when you're winning bets, this video's for you. Because the game most people think they're playing, yeah, it's not the one the sports books are beating you at. And if you keep ignoring that, you'll keep spinning your wheels, while the bookies keep building beachfront condos off your rent money parlays. But before that, let me ask you this. Would you rather hit 65% of your bets and lose money, or hit 47% and turn a profit? I know it sounds backward, but here's what I mean. Let's say you bet 10 games a day with just a slight edge on each. The positive expected value isn't big, but you just want some action. The issue here is that even if you win 6 and lose 4, you're still barely making any money. Because at a typical minus 110 odds, those 6 wins will bring you $600. But the 4 losses, they'll eat up $440. Which means you only get a $160 profit, and that's assuming you have a 60% win rate, which is highly unlikely. Now imagine betting 10 games on a bad week. You go 4 wins to 6 losses instead, and now you're down $260. So high volume only works if you have a real edge. Without it, every extra bet is just more risk. That's why professional bettors bet less, and they only play their top 3 to 5 games because quality is always greater than quantity. So if you're serious about making money from sports betting, I have a private group with guys who actually do this every day. We talk about data and strategies that will keep us in the game long term. That's why if you want to bet like a pro, you gotta join the group. I'll drop the link in the description if you're interested. Now let's talk about step 2. Because as I said earlier, sports betting isn't about picking winners. It's about beating the numbers. So let me show you what that looks like. Say a sports book offers plus 300 on a team, but you know the real odds should be closer to plus 200. At plus 300, you only need to win 1 out of 4 times to break even. And that gives you a 25% implied probability. But at plus 200, you have a 33% chance. So if you bet plus 300 when the true odds are closer to plus 200, you're getting paid more than you should. And that's a positive expected value bet. Now, yeah, you're still betting on an underdog, which means you're gonna lose most of the time. But let's say you bet $100 on that same line 10 times and only hit 3. That's $900 in payouts, $700 in losses, and you're still up $200. That's the kind of math sportsbooks hate. And they'll do everything in their power to limit you. Because now you're no longer funding their midweek massages and overpriced golf memberships. Which leads us to the next question. How do you actually find those high EV bets? And that's what step 3 is for. Let me put it this way. Imagine you're buying the new Jordans that were just released a couple of days ago. One store's selling them for $220. Another has the exact same pair for $180. You'd take the better price, no question. But in sports betting, most people don't even bother checking. They just click the first line they see and call it a day. And that right there is one of the biggest differences between casuals and sharps. Pros treat every bet like a business transaction. They never overpay for the same outcome. So, before you place a bet, take 30 seconds to check a few books. You'll be shocked how often a better number is just sitting there, waiting to be taken. And that's exactly how you use the sportsbook's trick against them. They've been milking casuals for years with overpriced lines and lazy bets. But now, you can use their own market to beat them, one mispriced line at a time. And if you want to make that even easier, there are tools that scan every sportsbook for you, so you're not wasting time manually hunting for value. I use OddsJam. It flags positive EV spots, where one book is hanging a better number than everyone else. But like any tool, it's only as good as the person using it, which is where step 4 comes in handy. So initially, I thought I was crushing it because the bets were positive EV, but then I started tracking and realized some of them weren't beating the closing line. And this is something you really need to watch out for, because tools like OddsJam don't guarantee you'll beat the closing line value. Like for instance, you're betting on obscure markets or you're late to the game. Sharp money moves fast and you might end up chasing a line that's already corrected. Another thing, if only 2 books are posting odds on a market, that positive EV can look massive. But that's usually just noise. One book might be way off, and with no other data, the tool can't tell the difference. So what you should be doing is tracking the closing line value yourself. You can use Google Sheets, or even have OddsJam's auto-tracking feature track this for you. The goal is to compare the odds you got with the market close. If 60 to 70% of your bets are beating the close, you're in the green. But don't just track blindly, look for patterns. You might notice certain types of bets, like long shot player props or markets in smaller leagues like Korean baseball or the WNBA, consistently lose to the closing line. When that happens, take that as your sign and tweak your filters. That's one surefire way of staying on the profitable side of sports betting. And speaking of staying sharp, you can't just track your closing line alone. You have to track your bets every step of the way. That's why I made a full-blown spreadsheet that tells you what's working and what's quietly draining your bankroll. It tracks every unit, helps you spot patterns, and shows where your real edge is. I'll drop the link in the description if you want to grab it. Alright, moving on to step 5. And I already know what some of you are thinking. If these tools aren't perfect, wouldn't it just be easier to trust expert picks and tipsters? Yeah, it feels easier, but that mindset is exactly what the pick sellers are counting on. A few years back, I joined one of those premium discords that cost $97 a month. It sounded legit. But first thing I see, LockDaddy69, shirtless, sunglasses indoors, Monster Energy in frame saying, Korean baseball over 3.5, lock of the day. Being the degenerate that I was, I copied his picks for a week and went 3-11. At one point, we had action on a women's volleyball unders in Poland. So I asked him why, and he responded with, the line looked sus, bro. We went on to lose that bet too, and I was pissed. That's when I realized, if someone's selling you picks for $97 a month, they're not making money from betting. They're making money from you. Which takes us to step 6, and this might just be the most important one yet. Because right now you might think that you're competing against bookmakers with an army of super nerds crunching numbers 24/7. But in reality, they start by setting a line that's not perfect, but close enough. And as bets come in, they adjust the line to balance the action on both sides. Their goal isn't to predict the outcome perfectly. It's to make sure the money is evenly split so they can collect the vig, which is the 2 to 3% edge they keep. That's why even matchups are often priced at -110 on both sides, because they're locking in that profit regardless of who wins. So, how do you fight this? You need to build your own model in markets no one cares about. Think Polish women's volleyball or Indian table tennis. Okay, maybe not that deep, but you get the idea. Your goal is to find the markets. Sportsbooks don't spend much time pricing, and the sharps don't bother betting because the edge for them is not big enough. But for you, that's your silver lining. Because when you start stacking smart bets, you're compounding. And with the right strategy, that's how your betting becomes 128% more profitable. So earlier, we broke down how real profit comes from finding value, not just hitting more bets. But knowing that isn't enough. If you want to actually build a strategy that holds up long term, this video is where you need to go. It's the exact approach I use to profit consistently without breaking a sweat. I'll see you there.